Dinosaurs in literature, art and history. Man and dinosaur coexistence. In the end of November and beginning of December last, many of the country people observed dragons, probably Dinosaurs, appearing in the north and flying rapidly towards the east, from which they concluded, and their conjectures were right, that boisterous weather would follow. 1793 European newspaper comment on the weather. What recorded history tells us about dinos and man? So God created the great dragons, Genesis 1:21, the Latin Vulgate, 5th century. Everyone agrees that stories of worldwide floods similar to the biblical flood of Noah exist in virtually every culture. The same can be said for stories, descriptions, legends, etc. concerning dragons. Evolutionists have no trouble with either of these stories, because they feel that there is a good rationalization for them in the. On the other hand, those of us who do believe the Bible and thus would expect that man and dinosaur or dragon existed in the past would expect and find it strange if stories concerning the flood and dinosaurs did not abound in most cultures of the past. If dinosaur and man existed where there was writing, art, literature and artifacts, among them should be indications of this interaction. Dinosaurs or dragons would not have been very discreet neighbors. As it turns out, there is plenty of such evidence of interaction between man and dinosaur in history, art and archaeology, as believers would expect. As late as the 16th and 17th centuries, many serious scholars were studying animal life, recording what they saw, and claiming personally to have seen dragons, dinosaurs. Johann Johnston, 1693-75, a doctor of medicine, published the celebrated De Serpentibus et Draconibus in 1653. It featured many animals which are now extinct, all, according to the author, carefully drawn from living models. This in and of itself does not prove anything, however, their absence would be difficult to explain. How many artifacts are needed to prove that man and dinosaur existed? It would seem to present a major difficulty for evolutionists to explain the representation in art or literature, or in artifacts of recognizable species of dinosaurs, by ancient men who supposedly had never seen one alive. One could surmise that perhaps they had merely come across fossils, but surely they would not have had the necessary skills to assemble them and then to draw them or describe them as in life. Modern scientists have themselves occasionally placed the wrong heads on skeletons or combined the bones of more than one specimen. This presents a problem if you believe in uniformism and evolution. There is way too much evidence to place on one page, so deciding what proofs to represent is difficult. Textual evidence, like stories, accounts, newspaper articles and the like, are plentiful, but perhaps not as persuasive as are physical evidences such as physical artifacts or pictures. There is an abundance of each, some very interesting ones on this page and the pages following. The above quote from Jerome's Latin translation of the Bible, Genesis 1:21, uses the word dragon, where others have used the word whales or sea monsters. The Hebrew word, tanin, is the same word that is variously translated as whales, sea monsters and jackals at various points in the New and Old Testaments. It seems likely that in Jerome's time, great dragons did exist, so he could believe that that was a correct translation in Genesis and other places where the word is used. More modern translators, believing dragons to be a myth, but Genesis to be factual, have substituted other close meanings of the word, except where it obviously would not make sense contextually. A rather simple strategy to find dinosaurs in history: look for pictures, statues, carvings, or written descriptions. Attempt to associate names with them. Try to find the names in other places. Try to obtain more descriptive material. Realize that, even as today, local names will vary. But, if you are genuinely interested, you will find dinosaurs everywhere. Europeans called them dragons, Chinese and Japanese called them lung, Scandinavians even had species names for them, including, apparently, for Tyrannosaurus rex. You will find the Apatosaurus diplodocus. They are likely the same, unmistakably described in the Bible Book of Job 40, behemoth, as well as a large marine or carnivorous dinosaur in Job 41, Leviathan. Leviathan is mentioned several other times, but not described again. When you look at the problem of dinosaur extinction this way, you quickly learn, if you really want to, that large creatures with reptilian characteristics, some flying, some two-legged, some four-legged, some marine, appear in the art, sculpture, literature, chronicles, and legends of virtually every culture in world history. but none of them were called dinosaurs because the word wasn't invented until the early 1800s. The stones of Ica. In widely separated areas of North and South America, construction of earth mounds and artificial shaping of hills and cliffs show familiarity on the part of the ancient artisans with animals supposedly extinct in the Americas for thousands, and in some cases, millions of years. A great mound in Wisconsin is shaped like the outline of an elephant or mastodon. Some pre-Inca people carved the rock cliffs of the Marcahuasi Plateau of Peru into huge representations of lions, camels, and something resembling a stegosaurus. In a small town near the Nazca Lines, the narrow Ica River was eroded away along the banks, revealing several hundred carved stones that had been buried in subterranean chambers. As the water receded, the carved stones were left on Ica's banks. As the locals began to collect these stones, a particular image of a fish caught the eye of Dr. Javier Cabrera, the town's physician. Dr. Cabrera recognized the outlined image as that of an extinct species of fish. His curiosity piqued, he sought more of these stones. Gradually, the villagers knew that he was interested in these strange objects, and so they gave him what is now his collection, something Cabrera calls his library of stone enigmas. The stones come in all sizes. There are small ones that can easily fit your palm, and there are rocks as large as a duck. All of the stones have images that have been carved with continuous lines etched into the rock surface. The etching reveals a lighter color than the original dark varnish of age, yet the etched grooves also bear traces of this varnish, indicating that the carving was done in ancient times. Dunedin. In the vicinity of the village of Ocuca and Ica in Peru, a collection of rounded stones totaling perhaps 16,000 and weighing from 5 pounds up to huge boulders of 800 pounds has been amassed by Dr. Javier Cabrera, who has about 11,000 of them in his museum. What is unusual about these stones of Ica is that they are covered with incised drawings ostensibly made by carvers of past civilizations. The engraved drawings show people, extant and extinct animals, star maps, the star ring of the zodiac, and maps of unidentified land areas. The people are shown hunting or struggling with a variety of monsters that resemble brontosaurs,